Interconnectors, or should we say transnational connections, is very relevant when you're talking about energy supply. Some energy is best transported within a grid. Electricity, for instance, oh yes, you can transport it on batteries, but it's a little bit costly. Natural gas, you can put it in a pipe. It's the cheapest way to transport it. You can of course also liquefy it. Liquefied natural gas, which we nowadays in Europe import a lot of, basically because the cheaper pipe gas from Russia is geopolitical a problem. The war in Ukraine, stuff like that. This is a case I would like to show you. This is within electricity. Sorry for this picture being in Danish, but it shows us Denmark and all our transmission grids within electricity. The oldest grid or interconnector we have is here between Denmark and Sweden. This very narrow strait, already back in the first quarter of the 20th century, we built an interconnector. Why? Well, because in Denmark we have traditionally used thermal power, at least at that time, and the Swede has hydropower. So the combination of the two different technologies made it a good idea to exchange electricity between the two countries. Actually, the eastern part of Denmark, Zealand and the island south of Zealand, they wasn't connected to the rest of Denmark. The continental part, Jutland and Funen, which is connected to Germany. It was only later we found out to build an interconnector between Zealand and Funen, Jutland. We also built interconnectors to Norway, a lot of hydropower. It's good. Hydropower is cheap. It's expensive to establish, but cheap to run. Well, of course, you can have some problems. Say if it doesn't rain or snow enough, then there's a lack of water and suddenly the prices rises. We've had that recently. And then it's good for the Norwegians to could import from Denmark, where we still have a lot of thermal powers, and nowadays also wind power, solar powers. It strengthens both countries' security of supply and also the economy. Cheap hydropower when there's a lot of water for Denmark, and security of supply for Norway when you have those dry years. They come from time to time. Zealand is nowadays also connected to Germany. We even have this funny interconnector which goes through an offshore wind farm placed on something called Kriegers Flak. So it's both a way to bring the produced wind power ashore, but also an interconnector. Sweden was also to be connected on this, but they didn't want to do it anyways. Bornholm, which we have pushed a little bit closer to Denmark here. It lays over here in the real world. It's actually not connected to the rest of Denmark. The people on Bornholm either have to produce their own electricity or import it from Sweden, because there is an interconnector from Sweden. And, well, it's a cable, subsea cable. And sometimes a ship come and destroy that cable, and Bornholm is left on their own. But it's very expensive making a cable from Zealand to Bornholm, so we didn't. This kind of interconnectors is part of the European policy. We talk about Trans-European Energy Networks, 10E, and that is actually part of large systems of networks within transport, railroads, roads, airport, water infrastructure, but also electricity and natural gas. It's based off some articles in the treaty, 170, 71, 72, 194, all gives the right for the EU to do things about creating networks within Europe, so we get an internal market to pressure down prices, but also to secure our security of supply. Say natural gas, which is a problem right now. We got a solidarity pact. Basically say, if anybody in the European Union needs natural gas to heat their homes, the neighboring country shall stop their industry and give the gas to housing purposes in the neighboring countries. Well, we hope that they don't consider this pact as a security in itself, because countries like Germany really need to do something about the dependency that domestic sector has on natural gas for heating. So work harder, please. It's easy to say, as a Dane, we have used a lot of district heating for decades, and that puts us in a much more favorable situation when we need to change large part of domestic heating. Some of the new things which we maybe can expect, it's some artificial structures out in the North Sea, artificial islands, energy islands we call them. These are still only visions. Hubs for collecting energy and sending it ashore as electricity, or maybe as a gas. We can make hydrogen out of it on these islands, or something else, methanol. We can send in by ship or by pipe, but it's still visions. The Belgians, it appears, will beat us to be the first to build an island, and we don't know whether this island will be a platform like we use them in oil and gas exploration, or it will be a real artificial island where we put a lot of stone and sand on top of each other, and Hobilt will stay there. Denmark have certainly stopped the expected tender. Why? Money. They made some more precise calculations and found out this was a very expensive construction with the artificial island. Now instead I think we will name Bornholm as a energy island. Bornholm already exists, so it's a lot cheaper just to make some installations onshore on Bornholm and transfer it to whatever purposes you need. Say PTX, power to something, to X. It can be hydrogen in the first place, but also methanol or methane. Secondly, whatever the demand is. Methanol seems to be interesting for the shipping industry these days. Thank you for your attention.